So this is the last video of 2022, and this time I'm speaking directly to you, to the camera, breaking the fourth wall, reflecting upon this past year and all the gifts that it's brought to me, and all the things that I'm grateful for, and also reflecting upon some of the not so great things as well. First of all, for those who care, I'm shooting on the Panasonic S5, and I'm shooting on a Minolta 28mm Rokkor lens, a vintage lens that my father owned. He was a photographer in the Army, and he passed away a long time ago in 1988. And he would be absolutely astounded that I am dealing with cameras. I mean, he would be shocked. And it's kind of sad in a way, because me and my father had a very strained relationship most of my life. I was fortunate enough to get to take care of him at the end of his life, and we kind of healed through a lot of stuff. But I think it would have been pretty cool to have something in common with him like this, to be able to talk about camera bodies and lenses and focal lengths and aperture and stuff like that. I mean, he would have been shocked. So I'm honoring him using this lens. It's obviously a manual lens. I love the character of this lens. I love the way it looks. And so I honor Leon Wilk using this lens today on my Panasonic S5, which is part of what I'm grateful for as well. You know, I've been, ever since I finished shooting my film, The Center of Distance, on my phone, I bought a Sony a6400 a couple of years ago, and I've been pretty much cutting my teeth on that film, like getting my chops together, learning how to use a camera. I mean, I had never owned a proper camera before I bought that one. And the reason I upgraded to this camera is because I'm now working on another film, and I knew that I needed something that was better with low light capability and had better dynamic range. And so I did a lot of research. Originally I wanted to get another Sony because I was used to Sony, but the S5 just kept popping up YouTube and all the research that I was doing, and eventually I wound up buying this camera. I'm so incredibly grateful. I have a great creative tool to work with now, and I will continue to talk about it and share things with you. Obviously, I shared a video the other day complaining about a couple of things, but there's really nothing real to complain about. And in fact, the fact that I even have something like this, like any, you know, like I said in that video, I think any modern camera is amazing, but this is something to be really grateful for. So thank you, Panasonic, for making it, and thank you to all the YouTubers who gave me all this great information. I appreciate that. It means a lot. So I just wanted to talk about, you know, some of the things that I've learned from this past year, and one of them was how valuable some of my friends are, which I've never been one to take for granted any of my relationships ever. I mean, I don't do that, but it's hard for me to trust people, and it's hard for me to, you know, give of myself to anybody. I don't know if that has to do with being adopted or whatever. I mean, I have no idea, but I've certainly tried to figure things like that out, mostly through my art, but also through a lot of personal therapy and things like that, because I have certainly destroyed plenty of relationships in my life, and I needed to investigate that to be a better person. But you know, I lost some people this year, people who I love, people who I thought I was very close to, and you know, it just showed me the fragility of friendships sometimes and relationships, and how I really appreciate the time that I had with those people. And you know, the reality of now is not going to take away from that time. I'm not one to feel duped or, you know, tricked or anything like that, but it just, you know, life is fleeting, as they say, and it's short, and you should really only be spending time with the people who you know are healthy for your existence, you know, for your journey that you're given, which is not a long one. You know, it could be taken at any time. So spend time with the people who you trust and who you love and who you know respect you and care about you. I think that's really important. I learned a lot about community over this last couple of years, but I'm just going to say over this year specifically, The Center of Distance, the film that I finished, you know, I made it during the pandemic, was finally released to the public just recently, but we went through a bunch of festivals, and, you know, I'm so incredibly humbled and honored and surprised, if I'm being honest, that we have so many laurels, you know, which are the awards that you get from festivals. I mean, we have so many of those for so many different categories of this film that I can't even fit them all on one poster. It's so amazing, and I just wanted to especially thank Steve Peckman for creating the most beautiful score for this film. Like, you know, all I told him was I wanted it to feel like something that Ennio Morricone would do, you know, the guy who scored The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and my favorite film of all time, Cinema Paradiso. And he more than delivered, you know. And I also told him I wanted it to be live, and so I have a live, completely original score for my film, which is amazing. I also need to thank all of my singer-songwriters who, you know, I spent many, many years in the music business, and I reached out to friends from that former life of mine. I kind of scoured all their websites, and I chose songs that I thought would be really appropriate for the film. And, you know, every single person, before I could even finish the sentence, just said yes. And so I have the most amazing score and soundtrack for this film. And in fact, this film is as great as it is because of my collaborations with everybody else. It's definitely because I did not do it all by myself that it's at the level that it's at. And, you know, I'm a solo theater artist. I mean, I've been doing nothing but solo theater for the last 15 years. And this was my first foray into making a feature film. And, you know, I've learned mostly from, you know, YouTubers, filmmakers who are incredibly generous to share their experience on YouTube, that, you know, filmmaking is really all about collaborating. You know, even though I shot that film all by myself, because, you know, I had to. I mean, it was a pandemic. And also, I didn't have any kind of budget to get a real crew and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, filmmaking really is about community, and it's about collaboration and working with people and dealing with relationships and solving problems together. And so I look forward to this next film that I'm working on now, just beginning to shoot, where I actually am collaborating with other shooters and with Steve again and some other people. And I look forward to raising my level of collaboration and growing my community along the way. I think that's perhaps the most valuable part of moving towards film. In theater, I certainly had some, you know, fantastic collaborators, you know, gifted, you know, amazing human beings, you know, Stephen Bishop Seeley, Reggie Gaines, I mean, you know, Barbara Van. I mean, I had so many collaborators that I could never even thank. I mean, I don't know how I could thank them, but, you know, solo theater is a very solitary profession. It's a solitary process. It's something that you definitely have to spend a lot of time by yourself. And, you know, filmmaking is as well. I mean, you know, today is Christmas Day, and I'm spending most of this day writing and planning for my film. And that's what I do most of the time, you know. I mean, I spend so much time writing. I'm dedicated to it. In fact, since I started working on my film, so from my LG V40 that I shot the film with, to buying a Sony A6400, to now with the Panasonic S5, I have literally never left home without a camera since I started 2020. So basically 2020, 2021, and 2022, I have had a camera with me every single day, bar none, every day. And I've shot every day. And that's the way I approach everything in my life. You know, I've been an athlete my whole life, and, you know, I'm the guy who is committed, who's dedicated, hardworking, you know, obsessed. That's how I approach everything. You know, I approach it like you have to give all of yourself to whatever you do to be satisfied, to get anything out of the process. Like, how could you really, you know, appreciate anything that you do unless you give all of yourself to it and try as hard as you can, you know, to be as simply put as possible. That's the way I approach everything, and it's been no different with this filmmaking, and I still have certainly a long way to go and so much to learn, but I've learned a lot. You know, I tell people that I learned more over the 2 years of working on my film than I've learned in my whole life combined, you know. And, you know, certainly thanks to some of these like ridiculously generous YouTubers who offer their, you know, their knowledge and their experience online for free. You know, Potato Jet, Gerald Undone, you know, Josh Yo, all these people. I mean, you know, I can't even, you know, describe what it's like to follow somebody like Brandon Lee or Danny Gewirtz, and how much I learned from that. You know, and I'm saying names that probably most people watching this know who they are, but a lot of people don't. But if you don't, Google them and you'll see what I'm talking about, you know. And just as an aside, you know, Danny Gewirtz recently shot a feature-length film, and he got funding from another YouTuber, a guy named Matty Hapoya, and was one of his producers, I think his main producer. And I watched, they made like a documentary, a 4-part documentary of the making of that film, and it just was so inspiring to me. And it was not inspiring because of the technical aspects of filmmaking and all that, but inspiring because of this, and I'll use the word again, but the community that he built, that he created, the people that he worked with, the emotional stake that everybody invested in his project was so inspiring to me, and I hope to have that kind of opportunity one day. I'm still working on a very small level in terms of community, you know, but the people that I am working with are high level, first of all, high level human beings, but also really gifted artists that I'm really grateful to have working with me. So filmmaking in this past year or so has really given me a lot, you know, not just creatively as an artist, but as a person. You know, I feel like it's had me grow because I have been such a solitary person and such a solitary artist, and now I'm realizing more and more that, you know, I can take what I have and invest it in my project, but if I stay open to others, you know, participating in the project with me, I'm probably going to have a better outcome, a better project. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to think about more than anything from this past year, and the gratitude that I have for my friends. Like, you know, I don't want to mention names because, you know, one of my friends is a celebrity, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm ever using that, you know, but I'm just grateful for the people who I get to love and who love me, and I'm grateful for all the experiences that I've had, the good and the not so good. We learn from everything, and I'm just so happy to have this camera. You know, the Panasonic S5 is so feature-packed. It's so filled with opportunity in my mind. You know, like I chose this camera actually over the Sony A7 IV or the A7S III, partially, like, I'm not gonna lie, you know, partially because it was a lot cheaper. And, you know, I think that's a big thing that everybody points to, like, oh, you can't believe how much you get for the price with this camera. But, you know, I put it on a credit card anyway, you know what I mean? Like, I could have extended myself a little bit further and gotten one of the other cameras, but I got this because it resonated with me, how it just felt like more of something that you had to dig into and really become a part of. You know, it was like I felt like I was searching for the perfect guitar to deal with, like something that it maybe wasn't necessarily something that had the highest quality, you know, inlays in the neck or, you know, stuff like that. Like, it was just something that was the best tool to, I don't know. I don't want to say the best tool because, you know, I could have chosen a Sony, a Canon, a Fuji. I could have chosen any camera and it would have been the best, you know. It just felt the best to me. You know what, maybe it was just the YouTubers. You know, I follow a guy named Patrick Tommaso, and I have never not believed anything that he said on YouTube, you know. And I don't know him. I mean, he could be an asshole for all I know. I have no idea. He seems like a really nice guy, but I have believed everything he said. And I also love that his take on, you know, doing reviews and stuff like that is not really what anybody else does. You know, he's more of a artistic, creative soul, spirit. You know, it's not so technical. I mean, he certainly talks about a lot of the technical aspects of cameras and lenses and filmmaking and stuff like that, but more so he talks about, you know, film and the spiritual nature of it, in my opinion. I mean, that's where I think he's coming from. And, you know, part of what I learned so much from over this past few years is devouring videos of directors and cinematographers and, you know, people who are behind the creative work of making movies. And so, in other words, like, choosing lenses for me has become a very spiritual journey. You know, it's not just like, oh, I need a 35, I need to cover all my focal lengths. Like, you know, honestly, 95% of my work is at 50 millimeters and 24 millimeters, even though I'm shooting right now at 28. And, you know, it's kind of weird because I'm not used to it, so I had to figure out where to stand, you know, or where to sit. But it's not about, you know, filling all the holes. It's about how much of the blurry background, the aperture, you know, like how much can I control? You know, what is the color like? You know, is it, you know, I love vintage lenses. I love the way they look. I love the character. I'm not looking for the sharpest or the best, or, you know, I don't need to get a lens that costs $2,800 because it's sharpest around the edges, you know, and it doesn't have any chromatic aberration or something like that. Like, I could care less about that, you know. Yes, I picked this camera because it had great stabilization, and I shoot a lot handheld, and, you know, because of everything I've learned, certainly, I did choose this for some of the specs. I'm really interested in working with anamorphic lenses, and this has anamorphic support internal in the camera. And so that's one of the reasons I chose this. But so I suppose that's kind of like technical and creative mixed together. And I guess really everything with a camera or a guitar or, you know, a set of drums or, you know, anything that you use for painting or doing sculpture, it's all technical and creative because you have to deal with the materials that you deal with, whether it be a tool or materials, to create art. But I think the best art is created through a spiritual experience and connecting emotionally and intellectually to whatever you're trying to communicate and share. So anyway, 2022 for me has been amazing. I'm grateful to have began taking this YouTube journey a little bit more seriously now. So now I'm actually hoping to, you know, continue to grow this community because I've gotten so much out of it, and I'm thinking maybe I can contribute something to it now, and I hope that I am. And I really appreciate the people who've been reaching out to me and, you know, going to my website and watching my work and seeing the Brooklyn Quartet miniseries that I did, which is an amazing kind of marriage of live theater and cinema. Thank you, David Diaz, the filmmaker who helped me with that. And a lot of people have gone to see The Center of Distance because they wanted to see what a feature film looks like, shot all by yourself on your phone, and becomes an award-winning film. But I'm also just grateful for, like I said, how much I've learned, and also to, you know, just have some nice interaction with people in this space. So I hope it grows, and it's like anything else. You know, when I do a play, I hope I fill the theater. You know, when I make a film, I hope everybody in the world watches that film, you know. When I write a song, I want everybody to hear it. If I write a poem, I want to go to the Niceyrig Poets Cafe and perform it in the Yankee Stadium of Poetry. And so in this case, YouTube is not a joke, you know what I mean? Like, I hope that as many people as possible come to my channel, and I hope that I can contribute in some kind of way to your creative process. I hope that I somehow perhaps inspire you to work harder, to take it a little bit more seriously, you know, to stay open to learning and to feel confident in who you are as an artist and your perspective and what you want to say, you know. One of the greatest gifts that I got from Reggie Gaines, one of my directors, is when he said to me, if you've ever seen it on stage before, don't do it. And he didn't really need to say that to me, but because I've kind of always been that way, but it resonated with me, and I think about it all the time. And that's the way I try to approach my art. You know, that's why this YouTube channel is not the same as other YouTube channels that deal with filmmaking and stuff like that. Like, is this really a filmmaking channel? I mean, I'm not really qualified to have a filmmaking channel. Like, I'm not Gerald Undone, you know, I'm not Potato Jet. But I have a lot to offer, I think, in other creative aspects. So thank you so much for this past year, for helping to grow this channel, for coming to see me, for commenting and going back and forth with me. I enjoy it. And I'm really looking forward to this journey with this new camera of mine. I'm definitely going to keep the Sony a6400 for now because I want to use it on this film. Like I said in my last video, I have one particular shot that needs a really long reach, and so I'm going to keep it just for that shot, which is pretty amazing. You know, it's like you never know when you'll need something. But I don't know if I need more than one camera after that. So today is Christmas Day. I hope everybody had the most beautiful holiday. I hope you're with people who you love and who love you, and I hope you are where you want to be, and I hope that everybody's healthy, and if not, my heart goes out to you. A good friend of mine, and actually somebody who's collaborating with me on this next film, which is about my biological father, she had a tragedy in her life recently, and so I know that this time right now in particular is really difficult for her, and I am certain that is the case for many, many people, and so my heart goes out to you if that's the case. And you know, here's to the best year of our lives sitting right in front of us in 2023, but let's make the most of each and every day. And oh, I just wanted to say one more thing. I watched a video yesterday from a YouTuber named Kenze. I'm going to put a link of his one of his videos in the description of this video, but he said something at the end of the video that really moved me. He's an amazing filmmaker, like really talented, and he's also a very engaging guy. You know, he's very compelling to listen to, and his English is actually beautiful. You know, I know it's not his first language, but the way he speaks is very musical and very intentional, and I can tell that he's speaking from the heart, you know. And he said something at the end of the video, and you know, he was comparing the Sony FX30, which is a camera that I almost bought instead of this one. I was kind of deciding between these two. So he was comparing the Sony FX30 with the Sony a7 IV. And after this video of, you know, every major comparison that you could have, you know, the charts, the, you know, the autofocus, you know, all the tests that everybody does, you know, but he does it really well. And interestingly, at the end he says, so what should you choose? And he says, there's no wrong choice. There's no mistakes. There's only to try. And in fact, that's what life is, you know, to try, you know. There's no success, there's no failure, there's nothing like that. It's just to wake up tomorrow, if you're fortunate enough to have tomorrow, and to try as hard as you can once again. And that's a life well lived. And, you know, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but it just really resonated with me. Like, that's kind of how I've lived my whole life, you know, like the ups and the downs, the great things that I've had, the tragic things, and I've had my share of tragedy, trust me. I've had my share of challenge and difficult times. But one thing that I've never stopped doing is trying for a better day, every single day. And I'm going to continue to do that because I think that when you stop trying, you cease to exist. You know, then you're just kind of, or maybe you cease to live, I should say, and you are simply existing. And nobody deserves to have a life like that. You know, everybody has the opportunity to try, no matter what position they're in or situation they're in or whatever. You can try to have a better day. And I think, as brutal as that might sound to some people who are incredibly challenged right now, that is the key to life, to wake up every day and try, and to maintain the desire to try, no matter how difficult and hard it gets. If you stop trying, you're dying. And so, you know, like in Morgan Freeman said once, you know, you can either get to dying or you can get to living. And I don't remember which film that was in right now. I think it was The Bucket List, maybe. But yeah, I think I'll end with that. You can either get to dying or you can get to living. Thanks so much for coming here, and see you on the next one starting next year. And as I always say, here's to a better world for all of us. Thank you.